Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty. The first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We have a great show lined up this week, but first, let's see who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Great Days Outdoors magazine. Are you looking for that one-of-a-kind gift for Father's Day? If so, head on over to greatdaysoutdoors.com and check out the best gifts for outdoorsmen 2021. We've curated a bunch of unique gift ideas to help you find an awesome gift for the outdoorsman on your list. Just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/best gifts for outdoorsmen to check it out. And also brought to you by Fishbites. Are you tired of scrambling for bait whenever you decide to go fishing? Have an artificial bait that's better than live bait ready to go at a moment's notice with Fishbites. It's easy to pack and travel with and shelf stable, and not to mention tough. With Fishbites, the bait stays on the hook and the fish stay on the bait. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. All right, guys, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. I am your host, Butch Theory, and I am joined today with Captain Patric Garmeson as my co-host. How are we doing today, Cap?
Nice and salty and scaly and bloody.
That's a good day.
Turned out to be a good day. That's right.
Good, man. Good.
What about you, man? How are you?
We are good, man. We are running and gunning. Everything's going really well. Weather's shaping up well, except for this weekend. I'm not too excited about that little depression down there. Hope that doesn't turn into much.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll just have to see, man. I don't want to sing the blues yet. We'll just have to see what comes with it and roll with it like we always do. You know what I mean?
Man, and you know, how many times have we had these forecasted things coming and It's like, all right, it's doomsday. We're going to have 6 to 8 inches of rain over the next few days. And then we get 1.5 inches and we fished every day. I'm telling my customers, just chill out.
Hang tight.
Chill
That's
out.
right.
We're gonna see what happens, and we're gonna react every day. I'm not gonna have a preemptive strike based on what a forecast looks like, because boy, do they get forecasts wrong. So
pretty much every day, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
No offense to the weathermen out there that are listening, if we have any.
That's right. All right,
man. Well, let's get into this thing. We got a great report lined up for you guys this week. We're going to get a nearshore report, kayak report with Captain Scott Kennedy. We're going to check off some offshore, and we'll check with Captain Bobby on the inshore. And I'm sure Captain Patric will have a lot of stuff to add on that as well. So we look forward to that. Before we get into the report this week, now let's head on down to CCA Alabama. Let's talk to Blakely Ellis, the executive director of CCA Alabama. You got something going on? All right, Blakely, welcome back to the show, buddy. What you guys got going on down there?
Hey, thanks, Butch. Well, I'm really excited to announce our first in-person event since all that 2020 mess derailed things for us a little bit. So we're having our 21st annual beach party, and this is presented by Coastline Management down in Orange Beach, and we're going to have it at the wharf right there on Main Street next Saturday. That's June 26th. At 6:00. We are just really excited to get back to things being normal and have ourselves a fun night, have a nice silent auction, raffle, and live auction, and really excited to see everybody again.
Awesome, man. So where is it exactly going to be within the wharf? That place is massive. It always intimidates me.
Yeah, it is pretty big. It's right there on Main Street. The facility is called the Port, and it used to be the Toby Keith Bar. It's almost directly across from the Ferris wheel movie theater section. So on the east side of Main Street, opposite of the Ferris wheel, is where it's located, and really nice facility. It's really perfect for us. The wharf is a really good partner of ours. They've just got a really good setup. Just couldn't be a better venue for us. We've got caterings done by Bellagio there, and this event is two things. One, it's going to be a lot of fun because it's the first one we've had since almost 20 months ago. And number two is this is our only Saturday night event. The rest of the ones we do around the state, Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, Mobile, they're always usually on a Thursday night. So things are a little bit more tame because you got work the next day. But this one, people tend to cut loose a little bit more and have a good time. And so we definitely, there'll be no shortage of that. I can promise you.
Good, man. That sounds fun. All right. So June 26th at the wharf, where can folks buy tickets? It's like you're going to have live music, a silent auction, and food. Where can folks go to get tickets?
The best way is going to do it is to do it online. And that's going to be CCAOBA21.givesmart.com. or they can text CCA OBA 21 to 76278, and that should send you a link to takes you to the landing page so that you can purchase tickets that way. You can also buy their tickets at the Wharf Outfitter, the marina office there at the Wharf, and then Sam's Bait and Tackle on Canal Road will also have some tickets. And so those are going to be your best bets, because we really I can't promise any tickets will be available at the door, but if they are, there's going to be a little bit higher price on them. You know, we do still have some sponsorship tables available. So if anybody wants to, grab up them and 7 of their good friends or coworkers and come sponsor a table, we can do that. And also, if somebody wants to make some donations, some auction items, we'll be happy to take those too, because we've got a pretty wide range of items that it's a lot of good stuff.
Sounds great.
Butch, I was gonna say that I was down there for this event 2 years ago, and man, there's just so many items to bid on. There's so many raffles, and I mean, there's so much stuff going on. And you said about maybe not being able to find it. There's a lot of stuff down there. There's no trouble finding the CCA banquet, because just follow the guys in shorts and flip flops and fishing shirts, and
that's a good point.
Yeah. And and I think Justin Fidalis is planning on bringing the tank down there. He's asked me to get some fish for him. Hopefully we can accommodate and help. Hopefully we can have a few redfish or trout or something down there for y'all. It's a legit party, a legit event. So anybody that's looking for something to do that Saturday, man, it's a great way to spend the evening with the wife or just some buddies or whatever.
Sounds great.
Yep.
What else? Any teasers? You got anything cool you want to tease that's going to be auctioned off?
We've got. I'll kind of start with our. I guess you call these more predictable. These are our national, corporate sponsors or partners. Going to have some really cool stuff from Sims. They've got some neat, like some luggage that we got in, and some gear from them, some bags, jacket, and then we've got some good stuff from AFCO. Lots of gas, and we're gonna have some nets. We've got Engel Coolers has come out with some really neat new versions of their little dry boxes. They've got some new colors, and they're high vis orange and high vis yellow. And I'm telling you, they pop. So you won't have to worry about somebody walking off with that, or if you were to maybe lose it over the side of the boat, I promise you it wouldn't take you long to find it, because these things are bright. And so we're gonna have a lot of fun stuff like that. But those dry boxes are really sharp. I'm really excited about those. TFO, we're gonna have tons of TFO rods, the offshore, inshore spinning, bottom fishing rods. We're gonna have Sam's Bait and Tackle is going to be putting together either some reels or certificate for us to maybe match up with some of those rods. We've got fly fishing gear. Let's see, we've got Costa. We'll have some Costa Del Mar sunglasses. I'm actually waiting on a shipment of those to come in. They've been actually, Costa is our longest running and continuous running national sponsor. They've been supporting us for over 15 years. And so last year was a struggle for them. And so we were excited to have them back and to get some product back in. We'll have some really nice pairs of glasses, a couple of certificates, good for any pair of Costa sunglasses, some Costa gear, some backpacks and stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty cool.
That's a lot of good stuff, man.
Yeah, that is a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Quite the lineup.
And then some of the more fun stuff too at this event is we always start the live auction off with the Warner family, Warner Turf and Warner Farms. They've always donated a pallet of sod, and that's what we start the live auction with, is auctioning off a pallet of St. Augustine or Centipede or Zoysia sod, and it's always a good time to get the auction kicked off. But given the current state of the economy down here and the shortage of building supplies and shortage of anything construction related, we're probably going to play off that pallet of sod line and probably have some building materials that we're going to auction off. Got a dumpster rental, a construction dumpster. I think Justin Fidala said he was going to he was going to put up his little mini excavator rental for a day as an auction item. So we're going to have some fun stuff like that. We'll have good trips, the Cabo trip down with Red Rum, lots of good artwork. Let's see, the reef makers we're gonna have a private reef, some vacations. We've got the lodge at the Gulf State Park down in Gulf Shores. I don't know if y'all have ever been in there or not, but that place is really nice. And we've got a 2-night stay for 2 people, along with dinner for 2,
awesome.
1 night there. So we've got some cool stuff, and
you got quite the spread,
it'll be a good time.
Yeah, that's enough to get you in the door right there. Not to mention dinner and cocktails. I like that idea.
Hey Blakely, I had one question before we wrap up. So last year we did everything online. For those that don't show up, are they still able to get online and do some of the silent auction stuff that way, or is it all in person?
I'm not sure yet. We're gonna have to make that call, because this is probably this will be the first year that we've been fully, I think, integrated into that system. So probably that at maybe next week's podcast or online, I'll be able to let people know if it'll be a in-person only thing, or if you can participate if you're not there. But usually we let people that aren't there participate still.
Well, just keep us in the loop on that.
Yeah, sounds good. Just keep us posted, and we'll make sure our listeners are aware. So you guys check out or go to ccaoba21.givesmart.com to get those tickets. And if folks want to get like you were saying, get the table for a sponsorship, what's the best way to they need to email you or what?
Yeah, they can shoot me an email, info@ccaalabama.org.
Awesome, Mr. Blakely. Well, we appreciate that, man. Thanks for getting the word out to our listeners about this cool event. Hopefully they look forward to it. And thanks for being on. We'll talk to you next time.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
All right, Captain Patrick, let's head on down to our first report. Let's see what Captain Bobby Abruscato is doing with 18 Fishing. What'd you say, Cap?
Hey, man, I made the first report, huh? That's good.
Right.
That way I don't have
first.
Because it's hard to follow some of these other guys, man. You go behind some of these other guys, man, it's like, man, there's some big shoes to follow,
That's right. I'm sure
now that they all got to follow you.
That's right. Week. I wouldn't want to do that. What you been up to, man? Tell us a fish story. I know you've been running and gunning.
Yeah, well, Patrick's probably already told you this, man. I'm sure he has too. I know he has. We've been staying wide open since for probably a year and a half now. Just wide open to where unless the weather gets us, it's the fishing's been good. The business end of it's been good. We're staying really busy. I'm still catching a lot of fish. I'm not having any problem at all with numbers of fish, and when I need to, and even when I'm catching numbers of fish, still catching quality fish mixed in with them. We had some pretty good fish the other day, and doing the same things. I mean, sometimes if I get in the right situation with the right crew, we'll throw some top waters early in the morning. That's certainly going to get some better size fish. But even using, and Patrick may have already talked about this, so pardon me, but we have the bait's been and from a shrimp standpoint, it's been pretty scarce. So I've been running some trips with I don't really chase it down. If I can't find it, I'm going to just use artificial bait. And this is not the time of the year. This is probably the worst time of the year to be trying to use artificial bait. It only gets worse into the summer, because there's so much bait in the water and the fish get a little particular. But I've had some really good trips just using artificial bait, using top waters in the right situations. The new Slick Junior and the Slick Lure still working great. And then the main one that's getting most of the fish in the boat is just a shrimp imitation under a popping cork. When I haven't been doing any deep water fishing with artificial bait. If I have to use artificial bait, I stay in the shallow stuff and, really work hard. We get pretty intense in the morning because the morning bite is going to be the best when you have to stay shallow when the water temperature's in the low 80 degrees range, which is where it's at right now. So just been spending some time when I don't have bait up shallow, trying to get as much done as I can doing that. And then when I have gotten bait, I've been doing kind of a combination of some shallow water fishing early in the morning, drifting grass flats and oyster beds and things like that until I can kind of feel the bite slowing down and then slipping off the structure, in water deeper than 8 feet, which is, rig. We got plenty of that in our system, rigs and wrecks and reefs and things like that. I've been really, that's been probably the true pattern. And if you really want to put fish in the boat this time of year, if you can get bait, that's probably going to be about the best way to go. But and all that's been very productive. It's just a function of whether or not I can get bait or not. That's kind of determined where I'm fishing.
Yes, sir, no doubt. And we have not talked about fishing at all with Captain Patrick yet. So you got a clean slate. You guys can go at
All
it.
right, I got a clean. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bobby's giving my report that I would be giving right now, because I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing if the bait shop has shrimp, I'm grabbing some. If they don't, I'm not worrying about it. I'm just going with artificial. And the only thing that I've added to my rotation that Bobby didn't mention is I've been throwing the cast net, and I've been catching some croakers and pogies, and been having some pretty good success with them. So
Nice. I definitely want to talk live croakers today. I just dredged up an article you wrote, Captain Bobby, in 2019. You can just Google summer speckled trout fishing with live croaker, and it's a really, really good article. And I've never done a ton of that, man. I would love to get to do some of that, being new to the inshore game. Sounds like that would be right up my alley.
Yeah, it's and this is the time of the year that I don't know why during the spring and the winter that they just don't have a taste for croakers, but when it gets hot like this, they just eat those croakers up. And that's certainly another option, and like Patrick just said, I was talking to one of the other guys the other day when we were launching together, and I during the oil spill year when none of the bait shops were open, I went back to the old days of dragging a bait trawl, which is how I like to catch my croakers. And it was really productive, way back before the bait shop days. That's how we caught our bait, which was mainly croakers, was dragging a bait trawl. So when the bait started getting scarce and the pretty days, everybody's now, especially with snapper season open, you got, even if you're going to use croakers, you're competing with the offshore guys and the inshore guys to get your hands on croakers from a bait shop, so it's tough to do. It's a great way to just during the summer to catch. You don't give up a lot of quantity. You can still catch plenty of quantity on croakers, but the quality, you clean up the bite a little bit, you still catch some of the unwanted species, but not nearly as bad as you do with shrimp, so this is a great time of the year, and it'll stay this way all the way probably through September, to where you can use croakers for trout bait and be really effective.
Let's dive into croakers a little bit since we went there. What is your ideal setup? Are you trying to fish the croakers, on the deep rigs or on the beach or on grass flats? What's your ideal setup? What's your perfect conditions for live line and croakers?
All of the you just listed all of the above. Fish, I like to be around some structure. I'm not moving a whole lot like I would maybe with shrimp or boodoos or something under a pop and cork, or throwing some kind of artificial bait. When I'm croaker fishing, I'm going to be trying to be as stationary. You mentioned deep water applications. When I say rigs, you can plug in reef wrecks. I'm any kind of piece of structure in deep water. I like to stay, get set where I'm going to fish with the croakers and let the croaker do the work as far as like enticing the trout. And sometimes it takes a little longer than it does with a shrimp on a popping cork. Or you mentioned the beach. You fishing the inside, outside beaches with croakers, dynamite. The only problem with particularly Gulf side beaches, it's real weather sensitive. You got to have the right day to do that. You can't just go out there, like say, for example, this weekend and probably a few days after this weekend, when you get a blow, you can't go fish that Gulf beach and survive. You'll literally die over there getting swamped and whatever. So you got to have the right days to do that. But all of those places work with croakers. So the main thing going back to it is I just want to make sure that I'm going to get somewhere that I can put a croaker out or my croakers out and stay put for a little while instead of constantly staying on the move. The other thing too is I like some current. Croakers really seem to work well where you have a little bit of current situation. And again, if you fish places like the Dolphin Island Bridge or the Fort Morgan area or the Bay, even the parts of the Sound, sometime during the day you're going to have some water movement. So I like a little bit of water movement with croakers too. So there's a couple things that I like to do those, and it's not that they don't bite them in shallow water, but it just seems like when I'm croaker fishing, it's during the summer. Therefore, I'm fishing deep water. So that's the other thing. I probably kind of focus more on, like a deeper water application.
Well, Bobby, give us the rigging. So if you're fishing a little deeper, you Carolina rig, you split shotting, what size hook? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I use mainly two rigs. One of them you just touched on was a Carolina rig. And my Carolina rig, it's just, if you're not familiar with it, it's just a sliding weight on the line slid up from the hook and held. You can use it a leader, which is so the weight's held up by the swivel, or I just use a little bitty split shot to hold my weight up. And don't even use a leader because trout aren't real toothy, so I don't have to worry too much about leader. They're certainly not line shy in our area. So I don't worry too much about a leader. And that way, if I have to change a hook or, I've got some bad line, I want to cut it off, I just slide the split shot up a little bit further and keep that same distance. Hook wise on a Carolina rig, or my I call a tight line rig, is Carolina rig for anything that's just got a single hook. Exclusively, I use number 4 Kale hooks. The number 4 just seems to be in bronze, by the way, seems to be a perfect size. You can catch the smaller trout, 16 to 20 inch trout with those, and then they do fine on those bigger trout. They're small enough that even with smaller croakers, a croaker can move them around. And I just hook them through the top lip. There's some people, I've heard people talk about hooking them through both lips, but if you just hook them through that top lip and just catch enough meat to make your cast, if you're getting bit if you've got a croaker on there and you're getting bit and you miss the fish and you reel it in and the croaker slid up the line or the croaker's still on the hook, you're hooking that croaker too deep. You just want to catch just enough meat to make the cast. I throw a lot of croakers off just because I barely hook them, because you want, when that trout hits that croaker, you want that croaker to come off and so you can get the hook into the fish. Yeah, so it's that's kind of a tricky thing. And then the other rig I use is some form of usually on a slip cork with that. And in that case, I hook them just in front of the dorsal fin and doing the same thing. I'm barely catching enough meat to when that fish gets bit, that hook comes out of the croaker and into the fish. And I hook those to the dorsal fin. It's really important by the way, too, if you're hooking them in the dorsal fin like that, is you've got to let that cork drift natural, because otherwise, if you lock it, if you don't let the line drift out, the croaker's going to drown. He's going to kind of turn, sideways in the water, and he's going to drown. So you got to let the line float out with the current when you hook them that way. With the tight line, I do the exact opposite. I lock it in gear, and I prefer. Patrick calls it. What do you call it, Rodney? You just like you stick it in the rod hole.
Rodney.
When you stick it in the rod hole, you call it Rodney, right?
Yeah. Let
him do the work because. Yeah, I just stick it in the rod holder because the croaker's just down, somewhere on or very near the bottom. And he's just swimming like natural, like he would look. When they hit that Kale hook, which is another beautiful thing about that Kale hook, is it hooks them every time. It'll hook them every single time, and it'll hook them right in the side of the mouth. You don't have to very rarely get one gut hooked with that Kale hook. So I don't worry about I let the fish just bend the rod over before we even pick the rod up. And my charters go like, oh, it starts jumping around. No. That's when you don't want to touch it. You gotta wait till that rod's bent over. And I'm hearing a little line go off. Okay, you can get it now,
Yeah.
And then they can do bill dance if they want to, but the fish is already hooked,
Yeah.
Takes that human error out of it.
Man,
it does, man. And you pull the trigger too soon when they start bouncing around. What's happening when that rod's bouncing around like that, trout's stalking the croaker. He's got to get that croaker set up right to strike him. And if you pick that rod up and move that rod tip, that translates to a lot of movement down on the bottom, and that trout's either going to give up or swim off or have to start all over again. So when all that's going on is when you really, really want to stay away from that rod, and let that trout get set up to strike that croaker.
Yeah, you're dead on the money with that, Bobby. Bobby, I got one more croaker type question. Me and Wes Hallman were talking about this yesterday. As a matter of fact, we're talking about all right, if you have access to buy live bait and you're buying shrimp and you're buying croakers and all this, you can really tie up a lot of money into bait in a hurry if you start buying
you
both.
Got that right.
Do you ever buy both? What's kind of an idea of what your strategy is if you were to go to the bait shop and you're like, man, I feel like I can get them on some shrimp here, but I feel like I can get them on some croakers there. Do you just go all in on one, or do you do a little bit of both?
That's a good question. I'll tell you. But part of it's determined by where I'm going to fish, which you kind of just asked in that question. Where am I going to be able to fish based on what the weather's doing? So that's going to determine it. One, if I'm going to a place where I'm going to need to do a lot of drift fishing, if I'm can't get out to some deeper structure and I know I'm going to be drift fishing a lot, I don't even worry with the croakers. If I get that nice day where I know I can get set up on some structure somewhere, I'm going to bring some croakers. Very rarely do I ever bring just croakers, just because I believe in shrimp. And I think it's kind of like we were talking off the air, is like, you put a shrimp out there, even if a fish is almost totally inactive, trout, he's going to hit that shrimp. So shrimp are kind of like a trip saver type bait. so I always carry some shrimp. And it again, probably the biggest, and then the third thing I do that we do have to do, and we being charter boat captains or fishing guides, is you got to look at the crew that you got too. If it's a family, for example, it's probably gonna be a little more challenging for them to catch fish on croakers. Yeah, I say that, a lot of times I can get them to where if I can just get them to watch the rod and just pick up the rod, they can do it. But usually I can kind of tell with who I'm going to have whether or not I need to use croakers. It's just some other factors that kind of go into that equation right there of what I'm going to carry. It's going to be the biggest determining factor, I guess, just to answer the short question, is what the weather's going to do and where I'm going to be able to fish.
Yep, that makes sense.
And what he said about that bait, the cost of it, it's you start putting you start putting 100 shrimp in there, and even if you just bring, I can't even stand buying less than 50 croakers. So you're probably looking at what, $30 worth of croakers, and you're probably looking at $60 or $70 worth of bait to carry 100 shrimp and 30 or 40 croakers. Whew. So you're talking about $60 or $70 worth of bait. You know what I'm saying?
That's no joke.
That stuff's expensive, and you want to use it properly and be effective with it, because they're proud of it, and rightfully so. They work hard for it and work hard to catch it, especially when it's scarce. So that's a good question. I don't know if I gave as good of an answer to it as the question was, but
well, I don't know that there definitely is not a right or wrong or
right. It's not multiple
right,
choice.
It's not. But I just wanted kind of people to hear what your thought process is on when you go to the bait shop and they say, we have both shrimp and croakers. How do you pick your next move?
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I, kind of like what I said is, and I've kind of usually have my mind made up before I get there. When I know, and when I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm eating my breakfast and drinking a cup of coffee. First thing I do is sit down and look at a few of the different weather sites and so forth, and I kind of, as we're heading down, a lot of times my mind, I'm starting to put together my plan in my head too, so a lot of that goes into it as well, so I kind of got my mind made up, and then one of the things you just said there was kind of one of these things you kind of read into these, is Patrick said this, and kind of reading between the lines of what he said. One of the easy things is when the bait shop just has one or the other, then your decision is made for you.
Get your mind made up for you.
You don't have to worry about making those executive decisions,
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Well, that was fun, man. I like that croaker in depth. You got the Hey Cap question this week, Captain Bobby.
All right.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. It's timely and applicable. JT Schmidt says, hey, Cap, what water temps do you like to see for the trout to start heading into deeper water? And do you notice that they hold in a certain part of the water column in that deeper water?
That's a great question. And like you just said, it's real timely. It's, we've kind of gone through that temperature range. We've gotten into it and are well into it now. And the magic number to me seems to be about 75 degrees. When it gets up to about 75 degrees and stays there for a little while, and that's about where the fish stay more active through the day in the deeper water. 75, and we're up into the low 80s now. So it's been that way. It's this year we kind of had that kind of late, that cool spring kind of hung in there for a while, but buddy, when it changed, it warmed up quick and that water temperature shot up there, and we're in that low 80 degree range right now. So they're in that deep water. They've made that move, or whatever you want to call it, or they probably stay in the deeper water. I just don't really fish for them until it really gets warm like this. And then as far as like the part of the water column, usually you're going to find that they're going to be in the lower third of the water column. So if you're fishing a 12-foot gas rig or a 10-foot reef, you're going to want to fit a 12-foot, for example. You're going to want to cover from 8 feet down to about 12 feet. They're going to get these rare occasions where they'll be up a little ways, but the majority of the time you're going to want to be fishing that lower third of the water column is where you're going to find them.
Yep. And if you got 2 or 3 people fishing, just kind of stagger your depths until you do find them. But I think you're right. They usually seem to be in that's one advantage of having a boat full of people like we do quite often, is we pull up to a rig that's 15 feet of water. I can go 4 guys, I can cover pretty much everything I want to cover with 3 or 4 guys, make 2 or 3 drifts and we're gone. Where if you're by yourself, you make a couple drifts, then you got to drop it again, make a couple more drifts. And it's amazing. Sometimes you'll find 1 foot makes a difference.
Sometimes 1 foot doesn't. Sometimes it's more of a dramatic move, like 2 or 3 feet. But I've seen occasion. I had an occasion one time. I swear to you, we were fishing a 10-foot shrimp boat wreck, and I couldn't figure out why this one guy wasn't catching fish, and he was 6 inches. I swear to you, 6 inches shallower than everybody else. I moved him down. He started whacking them.
I believe.
And I
it.
swear I saw that with my own eyes. So that's an extreme example. But usually, like a 2 foot, you're going to find about a 2 foot change is sometimes makes a big difference. And like Patric mentioned, you pull up there. We can pull up there now. Boom, 2 or 3 drifts, everybody at different depths, and you see one guy start getting bit. I'll tell him, okay, you're at 14, you're at 12, you're at 10, and then the guy catches. I said, what I have you at? He goes 12. Oh, everybody goes to 12, and boom, boom, boom. Hopefully, everybody's catching fish then.
Yep.
Instead of having to make multiple drifts on your own at different depths.
Yep, man, that's a great report. That's a great hay cap catching. Great hay cap question. JT Smith's going to get a prize pack from the Slick Lure. JT, make sure you email us at alabama@bestfishingreport.com to redeem those Slick Lures with your shipping address, and we'll get those out to you. Captain Bobby, I know your bookings are heating up just like the weather, man, but if folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way?
A-Team Fishing, all one word, like the old Mr. T show. ateamfishing.com is my website. It's got all of our contact information. You can hit us through the contact us tab or just call us the old fashioned way. It's got our phone number on there. And either way, we'll get you fixed up.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate the report. We look forward to talking with you next time, buddy. Keep whacking them.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break and hear from some of this week's sponsors. B&M Pole Company is the leading manufacturer of crappie poles in the world today. Their product line has evolved to include top quality gear for anglers who fish more than just for panfish, including their Sam Super Salt series designed for shallow water fishing for trout and redfish. These rods will deliver everything you need to catch these inshore fish at a great price. The genuine Portuguese cork handle feels great in your hand, and the exposed blank and touch system will add unbelievable sensitivity. Stainless guides are durable and flow smoothly. Check out their whole lineup at bnmpoles.com. Man, it's always good to hear from Captain Bobby with Captain Patric. Glad we got to go in depth on croakers there. That's some good stuff. I need to get in on that. I might be able to get out tomorrow afternoon. What you looking at for the weather? I know we got that system kind of coming in. When's it supposed to hit? Let's see. I'm looking at Fort Morgan for Thursday afternoon. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. Looks like it's going to do a switcheroo about noon and go from pretty much out of the north to pretty much out of the south.
North to south. So lunchtime should be good. And not only does it look good for the wind, I believe we have a bite. I think we have a feeding period around that time as well. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a minor feed from 11 to 1.
What are you looking at?
I don't know. It's fish.
I'm just looking at wind finder.
It has a picture. It's an app that has a picture of fish on it.
Fish weather.
No, it's not weather. It's fishing times. It's an app, and which there's a lot of different feeding tables and stuff. Heck, y'all probably have some in the Great Days Outdoors magazine each month.
Sir. Yep, that's correct.
So I'm looking at a minor feeding period, 11 to 1 o'clock. And we're also looking at the winds laying down. So, I mean, heck, if I didn't have a guide trip tomorrow and I'm looking at what, the wind and the feed times, I'd probably sleep in, take it easy, roll out about 10 o'clock, go.
It's going to be slick tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah. Go find you some bait, whether you cast net it or buy it, go fish some of that deep structure. Or actually, I mean, really the shallow stuff will work well around lunchtime as well, because we'll be right there around high tide.
That's what I was going to say. Looks like high tide's early
everything,
afternoon too, ain't it?
Yeah, everything's going to come together pretty nice for Thursday and Friday, kind of middle of the day. So
awesome. I'll have to check with the boss and see if I can't get out of here tomorrow afternoon for a little while.
Do I need to write you a note?
That's right. I might need a doctor's note. All right, man, let's move this thing along. Let's head on down and see what Captain Scott Kennedy's up to. I think he's been yakking. Let's see what he's been doing. Welcome back to the show, Captain Scott. What you got for a kayak report, buddy? What you been up to over there?
I tell you, it has definitely been a week full of kayak fishing. That's all I've done this week, and it has been good. The inshore stuff has been real good for us. Catching mostly speckled trout, but we have been picking up some reds in the mix. of course, plenty of white trout if that's your thing. I know I love to catch those white trout for a good fish fry.
Mm-hmm. They're delicious
but
for
I
sure.
tell you, oh yeah, and I tell you, they're underrated. I know I've mentioned it before, but they are definitely an underrated fish as far as eating goes. But the fun has been the speckled trout fishing. I've been kind of fishing some deeper water, I guess you could say, compared to what I normally do. When I'm in the kayaks, a lot of times, especially earlier in the year and later in the fall, I kind of stick to that 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet or less. But here lately, where we've been finding the big numbers, I've been searching out some deeper spots, looking for stuff that's 3.5 plus. Still fairly shallow, I guess you could say, compared to, some of the middle of the bay offshore stuff. But kind of the key that I've found for these specs lately has just been looking for the drop offs, kind of that, like I said, 3.5 to 5 feet range. If you have a sandy flat or something, a little bit of a shallow water area right next to that, and a little bit of structure, that's always a good thing, especially earlier in the morning. But I tell you, the water's been warm. It has definitely been warm lately. I think those fish are trying to get in that a little bit deeper stuff, a little bit cooler water, especially like if you got some good tide flow coming through, bringing in some some good clean cooler water out of the Gulf. That has been a big key as far as areas I've been looking for. And kind of what I've been throwing for them is, my favorite thing to do. I start out right at first light throwing topwaters, and it's tough to beat a topwater bite, especially when you can get a trout fired up and come up and just absolutely crush one. But past that, once they stop committing to that topwater, get a little slow. Been picking up some iridimes, been doing real good. That's probably the main bait I've thrown this week has been miridimes, and that's getting it. They're still running a little bit higher in the water column, but you're getting it down a few inches, and if you can get it down just a little bit, that seems to kind of be the key to get them fired back up once they quit topwater. But we've been catching a lot of specs, a lot of numbers, and a lot of what I would consider good sized ones in the mix. Perfect. 18 to 20 inches. So, anything under that kind of 20 inches is what I like to eat. So, if eating fish is your thing, it's been a good week for it.
What kind of kayaks are you running first, Scott?
So my personal kayak, the one I'm fishing out of, is a Hobie Pro Angler 12, which is a great kayak. It's kind of Hobie's, flagship kayak. Nice and stable, plenty of storage, because I'm one of those guys. I bring everything with me except for the kitchen sink. So I'm able to fit, I usually bring 5 or 6 rods with me. I can fit those comfortably on there.
Wow.
I'll have, another 4 or 5 tackle boxes. But, my client kayaks that I, use on my trips, we use the Hobie Compass, which, they have their advantages as well. It's a little bit smaller kayak as far as, width and everything. But it is a very fast kayak, very easy to pedal kayak, and that's kind of where you suffer with the Pro Angler. It is definitely a barge. It's slow moving.
It's the mothership.
Definitely takes a little more effort. Yeah, but I tell you, once you get on the water, it's great. But getting that Pro Angler to the water is never a fun part.
Scott, do you bring live bait on your kayaks?
Yeah. So
how?
It's never. Just a good old 5-gallon bucket and the aerator. Can't bring a ton of it, but you can keep 4 or 5 dozen shrimp. As long as you I do bring frozen water bottles with me, because that water can get a little hot sitting in that bucket. That's kind of your worst enemy with live bait, I guess you could say, is that water heats up and it just starts to kill everything off. So definitely bring some frozen water bottles. But yeah, I slap that sucker on the 5-gallon bucket on the back of the kayak and go with it. But like I said, live bait's never my first choice. I do prefer to throw the artificials for them, but it's always a good fallback if they're not wanting to come up and eat a piece of plastic.
All right, Scott, I got you mentioned about you're seeing a lot of white trout and they're good eating and whatnot on a kayak. What's your setup for keeping fish and white trout in particular? For me, like, if we're going to keep white trout, I almost like to try to get them in the ice and trying to get them as cold as possible. They always seem to hold up better versus just kind of throw it in a box, stacked up on one on top of another. Do you have any strategies there for dealing with a white trout bite?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, you want to get them cold because they are kind of a softer fish. And I mean, even specs can kind of be the same way. But usually what I do, so I run, I believe I've got a 45 quart igloo. And that does fit pretty well on the back of my kayak.
You really do have a
what I'll
mothership.
do is yeah,
That's
I tell
crazy.
you, I look like the clampets running through town when I'm out there on the water because I've got stuff hanging everywhere off of it. Like I said, you're able to bring it with that kayak. But yeah, so I get that 45 quart cooler on there. I'll usually put 10 or 15 pounds of ice in there. And the biggest thing I do is I put a lot of water in there with my ice to kind of make that ice water slurry.
Yep.
And that way, yeah, you can shove everything down in there, get those fish nice and cold. And I tell you, it helps a lot at the end of the day too, when you go to clean them and that fish is, had time to kind of stiffen up in there. Every bit of it is getting cold. So it's like you said, it's not just sitting in a box, one on top of each other. So you don't have half the fish cold, the other half of it still kind of hot and soft. Ice water slurry is definitely a good thing to use in your kayaks.
All right. Well, let's keep the clampet discussion going. How many rods are you taking on your kayak? And like, if we were to see Scott Kennedy launching his kayak tomorrow, what are on those rods? Like, what's your setups going? You don't have to go way into detail, but like 2 spinning rods, I'm
Generally,
throwing top
right.
water, whatever.
So I run, like I said, I usually bring, if I'm fishing just for myself, not running a trip, I'll have 5 rods with me, all spinning gear. Because one thing with a kayak is you almost have to kind of learn to cast again. It's a lot different than being able to stand up and cast and having a lot of room to work with. So I got real good at throwing backlashes with my bait casters when I first started out. So I have switched over completely to spinning gear. And on those 5 rods, kind of what I'll start out with is, of course, I have a top water. I usually do some kind of head-on lure, either a 1-knocker or spook junior. Then outside of that, my next 2 rods, I'll have a Mirrodine tied on. I'll have a 17 MR and a 27 MR, depending on if there's a lot of pogies in the area, a lot of bigger mullet. I like to have that bigger bait, but I also like to have that smaller one if you're around just a bunch of bull minnows, finger mullet, that kind of stuff. That's my first 3 rods. Then I'll have, on the 4th rod, I'll have some kind of jig tied up, whether it be, matrix shad or, an egret wedge tail, something like that. Yeah, and so on my last rod, I always have some kind of popping cork rigged up. A popping cork with a shrimp under it is definitely a good rig to have tied up, especially if you get in an area, there's fish around, but they're not really eating too much and you're having to search around. Having that popping cork makes a lot of noise, draws a lot of attention, allows you to cover some water. And like I said, there's a lot of shrimp in the bay right now. So any kind of shrimp imitation is done real well underneath the popping cork. There's not much better, at least for what I've found. If you're having a slow day, trying to really have to search for the fish, that popping cork will help you search them out. I will say it is definitely not my favorite bait to throw, but it is one you definitely want to keep tied on.
Good stuff, man. That's a good covering all the bases. But I will tell you one thing that you're leaving out. I mean, maybe I didn't hear you, but the slick lure is I have been in some areas that I know that you will that you have frequented in the past, and we've been slamming some nice 18 to all the way up to 24-inch trout on the slick lure. So just something to keep in mind when you're rigging up.
Oh yeah, I tell you, I always bring a couple bags of slicks with me, and they definitely catch fish, like you said. I tell you what though, I hadn't quite figured out that cadence you have to work it.
Well, that's an interesting topic,
and it changes
almost
man.
On its own, because I'm working the thing so fast right now. It's basically leaving a wake on the surface because I'm keeping it going so fast and they're smashing it. Whereas in the wintertime, I'm like barely turning the handle and they're smashing it. So
yep. I talked about that a few weeks ago whenever I went wading with Bobby and Richard. I noticed big time that I was underachieving, and it was definitely whenever I sped it up and I realized, man, let's speed this thing up a little bit. Made all the difference in the world. Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Well, keep that in mind, Scott. That's a tip. That's a tip from Captain Patrick to Scott Kennedy.
I like it. But
Scott, I got so I want to dig in just a little bit more on the fishing side of things. We got dialed in on the rigging and what your setup is. But so like right now, are you seeing any signs? Are you seeing anything visually that's keying you in on where some of these speckled trout are hanging out or redfish? And then like when you're fishing and say you get into an area and you start catching fish, or do you have like a power pole or a spud pole or an anchor or anything like that where you stop and try to fish that particular area, or do you like to stay moving? So 2 questions there.
So kind of what I've been looking for, of course, like I said, I'm looking for, a little bit deeper water, still, near the shore. But I am looking for those little bit deeper drop offs. If I can find one that's got, a ledge that goes 3 to 4 feet, and then there's a nice sand flat next to it, which looking on, Google Maps, you have the Navionics app or something, it makes it a little bit easier to find those areas. But what I'm looking for once I get to those areas, here lately, it's just been looking for the big schools of bait, because there has been just an unreal amount of bait down in the areas I've been fishing lately. And some days we've been pulling them off the edges of schools of mullet. Other days we've been looking for the big schools of pogies. And one thing I have noticed, especially this week in particular, there's a lot of shrimp, in the bay right now. Pretty much everywhere that I've really got into some of my best bites this week, you can see the shrimp flipping out of the water, getting pushed around and getting moved around. So if you're in an area, you see the bait, you see the mullet jumping, you see the pogies flipping on the surface. Keep your eye out for those shrimp. And if you see some shrimp flipping around, that's definitely, where I've been focusing on the most. As far as, anchoring up and stuff, I do bring, like you said, a little spud pole with me, just kind of, it's just a small push pole, about an 8 to 10 foot push pole. And I will use that from time to time. I do try not to anchor up if at all possible. It does make it a little bit more difficult, kind of drifting around, having to circle around and keep pushing back up to your spots. But with these kayaks, we are able to get a little closer to the fish and not spook them quite as much, I guess. But you do have to be careful with the anchor noise, because as soon as you drop, if you drop a lead anchor down or you start digging around in the sand, these fish have been getting a little spooky. So, it does help windy days. You don't have the option to not use one, and especially coming up the tail end of the week, looks like we're going to have a good bit of wind. So you will have to use an anchor then. But I tried to just kind of be making drifts, keep moving, circling back, and not trying to make much noise at all.
That's a great report, man.
That is a good report.
What you think for a kayak near shore tip this week?
My tip, and it's not necessarily geared towards fishing as much as just keeping care of your body. I've been, getting out pretty early. Like I said, I've been launching a couple of days, before first light, trying to get off the water early, because it's sitting in these frying pans on the water, especially if you don't have any kind of breeze or anything. It's you're cooking yourself. And so it is easy to get overheated. On top of that, I've been bringing a lot more drinks than I anticipate drinking. I'll bring 6 waters per person. And that's, just to be sure, if we get a little too hot or something, drink plenty of water. Helps to have some Gatorades and stuff, kind of replace those electrolytes, I guess. And, it's good wearing a big hat, having some way to kind of keep the sun off your head. That's all real good. And like you said, not necessarily for the fishing so much, just to make sure
you gotta survive, man.
That's what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say. You got to stay alive, hydrated, and not fried to catch a fish. So,
well, that's good, Scott. But so are the 6 bottles of water hanging out in the same cooler with the white trout, or do they have their own cooler?
Nope. They are in there with the fish. They are nice and fishy. That's
nice.
I love
think that's
fish flavored
kinda-
water.
Yeah, I think it gives you an extra edge when you start
does.
drinking that fishy taste. You almost kind of become the fish. So-
Yeah, very
I
good.
like it.
too. Man, that's double. That's 2 tips in one right there.
That's right. That's a great segment. Well, we appreciate the report, Captain Scott. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can shoot me a text or give me a call at 251-408-2604, or you can check out my page, Whistling Waters, on the Fish and Chaos app, and then that's shows you all my dates, availability, rates, everything like that.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yep,
Keep
we'll see you next time,
whacking,
guys.
All right, folks, that's another awesome report, and it was brought to you by CCA Alabama. A great way to support conservation projects like the Claude Petit Flounder and Speckled Trout Hatchery in the University of South Alabama Cobia Tagging Project is through the purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. And also brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Do you need a new roof? Do you have wind or hail damage? You may qualify for a free roof. Foster Contracting will inspect and provide you with an estimate, stress-free, and they will handle your claim with your insurance. Your roof is your first line of defense this storm season. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your day. Foster Contracting has you covered. Check them out at www.fortifiedroofingpros.com or give them a shout at 251-447-2978. All right, Captain Patrick, let's head on offshore a little ways. Let's go talk to Captain Kendall Annan on the Gulf Rebel. How we doing today, Captain Kendall?
Just got in today, had a pretty good catch.
Awesome, man. What y'all been catching over there?
Red snapper, some mackerel, Spanish mackerel, king mackerel, a few grouper here and there, beeliners, lane snapper, a few mahi, and some hooters been caught.
All right, man. I heard the water's been pretty nice. You guys still seeing that?
Oh, yeah, it's still nice. A lot of flying fish flying around and a little bit of scattered grass.
Awesome. You can't beat that. Yeah, we were talking last week just about keeping your Wahoo trollers out. Been having some success in there in that 10 to 15, 20 mile range. I mean, if you're bumping from spot to spot, man, put them out. I think that's a good bonus. How you guys been catching your king mackerel?
The king has mainly been on them bomber dusters, just, small 2 foot. I use 2 foot, 135-pound cable, a single hook out the back, throw on a strip of bonita if you have it. And man, it's been automatic king mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and the bobos.
Are you doing those on a drift line? Or are you specifically kind of bumping around a rig, or what are you targeting?
No, that's I pull those when I'm going spot to spot and going out. Now the drift line, I'll use the same
gotcha.
thing, a 135 to 90-pound cable, and I'll use a double treble hook set, with a stinger hook. You throw a lot of cigar minnow been floating out there. I think we caught one today, actually, 21-pound king.
Dang,
So it was really
let's go.
nice.
Yeah, it's good to see those start showing up. I guess the water temperature is finally getting on up there and get those things up in here.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know it's definitely warm because I had to jump in today and clean my prop out.
Good times, right? Living the dream, as
Gotta
they
love
say.
it.
Yeah,
Hey,
living the dream.
behind the scenes.
Salt life. Well, good, man.
That's it.
I've been hearing a decent amount of people talking. Obviously, snapper slapping is the hot item right now. I've been hearing some guys on the smaller boats that are, on shorter, even the charter boats on the shorter trips, been having a little bit of trouble, especially on the public numbers, just trying to get their limit of snapper and or some decent snapper. We talked last week and the week before a little bit about, not culling your fish, just trying to keep that mortality rate as low as possible. Have you guys been seeing anything like that as far as those reefs being pretty beat up in that close range?
Yeah, they've been some of them been hit pretty hard, and some of them from the storms moved around, and we found some. I think I was talking about it on the last time I was on here.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a spot that's not there anymore, don't delete it. Just write it down, mark it. Maybe check. I know I found a lot of my spots that have been moved just a couple hundred yards west of it. So you just got to make sure, go do some laps and maybe come back to it another day. But I wouldn't delete them because they're out there somewhere, depending on what kind of reef. I know the better bite has been on down the road, 30+ miles for sure on the snapper this year.
Yeah, for sure. On those shorter trips, sometimes you just can't help it. Whether your vessel doesn't allow it, or the weather, or your length of trip.
Right.
Are you able to do anything to combat that, to get those limits of snapper and or the nicer ones? Are you trying to scale down, or is there anything you can do in that instance?
I mean, as far as catching the fish, which everybody wants to do, depending on the bite, obviously if you got the right bait, live bait would be, a great choice.
Mhm.
I mean, if you got to switch up your tactics, whether it's using a super long leader, maybe go lighter on your leader. You just got to stay on it. But I think the light leader, live bait would work great. I think, again, we talked about the drift line. I caught last week, we had a 28-pound red snapper on the drift line.
Yep.
And most of the bigger fish have been caught on the drift line. So again, throw in that drift line, staying busy with that. And again, if you have to switch up the tackle a little bit, maybe go a little lighter on the leader, depending on what you're fishing on and what you're going after. And I know this isn't part of the question, but even fishing for other species, I do, like today, I got some guys out there wanting this and that, but some of these spots that you are fishing have other fish. So I know everybody wants to catch snapper, but you need to probably mix in another bait, drop at the bottom, because today we caught some nice beeliners in close, and they've been biting pretty good. The lane snapper on snapper spots that usually traditionally have the red snapper on it. Hell, we were pulling up Maggies, 2-3 pounders, and this is in close.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Let's dig into that a little more, because we do get a lot of people talking about, okay, I've got my snapper. What do I do now? What are you doing to key in on those vermilion snapper and the other species? And
the lanes too. What are you
lanes,
doing?
Yeah. Hold on. I can't be talking about it too much for the lane snapper, but
nah, just generalizations. We don't want to give away top secrets now. We don't get in trouble.
There.
That's right.
Yeah. No, if we got the time, depending on what kind of trip I'm running. Again, most of the time I'm kind of on the clock. I'm either running 2 trips a day, but if I got the time, I'll make the swaps, maybe a double hook rig. I mean, I think most of the better grade fish, especially if you're just kind of seeing what's down there. Hey, I pull up on a spot. I am fishing for red snapper, but I'm going to look at the bottom and say, oh, well, hold on a minute. There's a little bit of fuzz down here. Something looks a little interesting. I need to drop down something else. And that we've been using a lot of long leaders, small for all beeliner hooks, sharp, bait hooks, and cut squid and cut bonita. And like I said, I'm just wearing them out.
That's a great tip within itself, man. Yeah, that's a great report, man. You talking about spots being moved and all that kind of got me thinking about, man, back in the day, I know you guys do a lot too. I can't even tell you how many hundreds or thousands of reefs that I've pushed off the stern of the Lady Ann. I mean, it's just different. I mean, and you talk about all the reefs getting, not you, but we talk about all the time that, that 15, 20 mile, the reefs getting beat up. Maybe it's time to start putting out more reefs. I mean, maybe that would be a great ticket,
Yes. Yeah. And I know we just got Alabama did the funding part. So the reef maker and the Walters, they're putting a bunch out. They put a bunch out, and I know in 2018, I know they're about to put out a lot more super reefs. I think around 300. So that's going to be awesome. But as far as like your average guy, yeah, anybody could go purchase a reef from the reef maker. He's got different styles of reefs. You got the eco reefs, you got the grouper reefs, the 10-footers, the 20-footers. He can also probably do some specialized orders like on containers and chicken cages and stuff like that. So anybody that fishes can get their hands on their own personal spot.
And they're reasonably priced, man. It's not like it's outrageous.
They are indeed. It's not. And the biggest thing is taking care of it. I mean, again, if it's going to be your spot, just like anybody that does the fishing, you see a boat running out and you might want to pull off or any, you know what I mean? Just kind of take care of the spot. Most of my good spots that I'm fishing, I might catch a few good ones on it and I'm going to move off, and just go check another one,
For sure. Yeah. You can't crush them.
You
won't have any fish to be sustained there.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're fishing and or passing by somebody, how much room do you like to give somebody that's sitting on a wreck?
Depends who that captain is.
Right. True. Just say you don't know.
Sometimes they might see a bird or two, but no, I don't know. I'm usually a couple miles away.
I'd say at least a mile and a half.
Sometimes you can't dodge them. That everybody. I can't go 5 miles out of the way to go around someone. But at worst, I'm gonna hit them up on the radio and try to give them a heads up that hey, I'm not running on you and all that. So stay on your whatever you got to do and fish and
it's just a good courtesy.
Just kind of give them a little room. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Well, man, that's a great report. We got to get a tip from you. What you think for a tip this week?
I mean, as far as that, we're in snapper season. And that's the hot topic here. I think just taking care of that species. I mean, as much as you want to handle the regulations, hey, I want to catch more snapper, I want more days. Well, just doing your part as far as the fish itself. I know we talked about culling fish and throwing back, and everybody wants the hogs. If you got rat snappers and you're catching them, try to take care of them. You don't beat them up too bad. I know I think everybody needs to invest in the vent tool. Everybody should go pick one up. I know they make different kinds. So right, do your research on it. Mm-hmm. Definitely do your research.
It's not to poke the stomach.
Right.
Yeah, please don't do that. Yeah, we want to take care of it, and we want to get these snapper back on the right track. And I think doing that is, doing that little part. It doesn't take much. Keep it on your boat, store it on your boat. And like I said, you get some rats that are floating off, go do your part. Go get them, pick them up, vent them, and swim them off. And I think, if everybody does that, I think you'll see an increase.
No doubt, man. I mean, each person has an obligation to take care of the reef species if you're fishing for those fish. I completely agree with that. And it takes every single person taking it serious. I mean, one boat can kill a ton of fish if you're not careful. I mean, especially if you're doing it a good bit.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's the same for me as a charter boat captain. I mean, all right, by law, you're not supposed to feed dolphins. Okay. Well, if I'm throwing back snapper, then them dolphins are eating it. I gotta go. I gotta move. I gotta pick up and leave. And I'm definitely not gonna feed the friendly porpoise. Okay.
Right. No doubt.
So I'm not. If I see it one time, I gotta pick up and take off. Try to get out of the way of these guys.
Yep, because they'll chomp them down too. They hurt the numbers as well. Well, man, that's a great tip. That's a great report. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
They can look us up, Facebook, website, GulfRebelCharts.com. And I know I had some guys reach out and try to get my number. So here's my number if you want to get at me, ask me some questions. It's 251-597-2499. They could get a hold of me.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it. Always good to hear from you, and we look forward to hearing from you next time, dude. You guys be safe out there, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
All right, guys. That wraps up another great segment. Y'all take a minute to check out our sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. And also brought to you by KillerDock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rotten table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit KillerDock.com to see more. All right, Captain Patrick, we got to do What Did You Learn? What'd you pick up on from today?
Man, I'll tell you, the thing that stuck out to me, I mean, all of our contributors are top-notch and provide a lot of info. What Captain Kendall was talking about, and he may not even have said it as much on the podcast as we did off air, but just talking about how much the importance of being like an offshore charter and replenishing the reefs and the reef systems and putting reefs out there. Saying it out loud, it makes sense. Okay, these guys are making a living on the reef systems and the reef fish and everything, so it makes sense for them to have structures out there to fish. But I mean, it's a constant like yearly thing where you need to have stuff out there, new stuff out there, because old stuff is degrading. It's getting knocked over, getting covered up by storms. People are finding it, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So
and you don't have to even be a charter guy, man. I know what you're talking about, those guys making a living, and they have to have numbers they need to go to in order to get things done for their charters. Yep. But man, the recreational guy, if you fish 4, 5, 6 times a year during the snapper season, and you were to invest over the next, say, 10 years, you just bought one reef
over the next 10 years, and you start developing some of your own private stuff in amongst the public stuff. I mean, man, it's
absolutely, and it
seems
helps the
like
whole
it
fishery.
seems like a no-brainer. Yeah, I mean, and it helps the whole fishery. Keeps bringing in juveniles and stuff, and you're just making everything better for the whole state, the whole coast, everything. So
Yep.
that was
Yeah, I mean,
that was my learning.
yeah, we have a great public resource. There are a lot of good public numbers, but if you can supplement that, if you have the means to supplement that as a recreational angler, man, I think the more the merrier. I mean, I think it's a great pickup from the show.
What about you, man? What did you learn?
Man, I got a ton of stuff scribbled down over here. I was learning a lot this week.
You're over there scribbling, huh?
I was, man. I like to make notes. I really enjoyed Captain Bobby's in-depth. I guess we kind of forced him a little bit to go in-depth on croakers, but I enjoyed his segment on croaker fishing and how which, as most fishing is conditional. You know, you got to have the right weather for it. You got to have the right wind, and you can't be getting beat up out there on the Gulf beaches. You got to pick your spots. And I really liked what he was saying about barely hooking your croaker, and that he, flings off a couple croakers a trip whenever he's croaker fishing just because it's hooked so lightly. That makes sense. That croaker could be a big, big chalk in that fish's mouth if he can't get the hook in his mouth. If he's got a big giant croaker in it, it makes sense.
When he said about if the croaker is actually sliding up the line, I hope he's not watching. He probably said that because he must have been watching me croaker fish before, because it
got
seems
your
like
number.
every trout that we catch or redfish or whatever on a croaker, it seems like the croaker slides up the line. So he called me out right there on the podcast.
There you go. You learned that too.
Yep, I sure did.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Y'all take a minute to check out some Fishing Chaos fishing tournaments coming up near you. For Alabama saltwater anglers, you'll want to check out these awesome tournaments. The Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo will take place on Dauphin Island, Alabama on July 16th through the 18th, 2021. The Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo's tickets will be available for purchase on the Fishing Chaos app starting this Sunday, June 20th, 2021. Also, the 39th annual Condé Cavaliers Fishing Rodeo will be held at Dauphin Island Marina on August 7th and 8th of 2021. Tickets will be available for purchase beginning June 20th, 2021 as well. The Mobile Rotary 31st Annual Tarpon Catch and Release Tournament tickets are already for sale as we speak, and that tournament will take place on August 7th, 2021 at the Dauphin Island Marina. All proceeds go to support Rotary Community Projects or the Rotary Foundation, a nonprofit organization. More tournaments near you, info and full tournament details, including ticket purchases, can be found online at app.fishingchaos.com/tournament. And also, Photonus Defense. Photonus Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles, built around the Photonus 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. These ultra-light, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest images, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PDR Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonus Defense, masters of darkness. Captain Patrick, I enjoyed co-hosting with you today, man. It's always a good time.
Oh, man. It's hard to come up with something better to do after fishing all day than come home,
talk fishing,
jump on the podcast with you and talk fishing. It's great.
That's a good day. Well, man, I know you've been booking a ton of trips. I saw a post a couple of days ago. Gosh, that might have been last week now, but you only had a couple of days left in, was it July?
Yeah, June's totally booked. I've got 1 day left in July, and actually, while
awesome.
We've been recording, I've booked a couple of days in August.
Nice.
People just jumping on my website and finding an open date, and they're something that works for their schedule, and they're booking it. So yeah, awesome. So I've got a few days left in August. I mean, I'm booking August, September, October, November, over December, all of the remaining months of the year. I'm pretty sure we've booked at least 1 day in all of the remaining months just this week. So
people are getting it in.
Yep. I mean, it's very humbling and rewarding and everything it all in one, because I really appreciate my customers and the guys and girls that continue to support me. But just as often as I have those that continue to support me, I'm constantly picking up new customers that are wanting their first shot on riding around on the blue wave trying to catch some fish. So
that's awesome, man. You can't beat that. Well, if folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Go to my website, uglyfishing.com. Click the book now button. You'll be able to see you'll be able to see my full calendar. You can book right then and there. You don't even have to contact me, but if you have some reasons to contact me or call me, text me, whatever, 251-747-1554 is my telephone number. And like I said, call or text. Text a lot of times works out better, to where if it's somebody might have a question or something at 9:00 at night, shoot me a text. I may get you at 4:00 in the morning, but
that's right. I'll get back to you when I can.
I'll get back to you. So that's the best way.
I love it, man. Good to hear. Glad you guys are doing well. That's going to wrap it up this week, folks. You guys please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 and subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. We're Slaycat Pat.
Keep whacking them.
Talk to y'all next week, guys. Thanks. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach, Alabama. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. And also brought to you by the Alabama Marine Resources Division. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers that gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper must be reported through Snapper Check prior to landing the fish in Alabama. For more information about Snapper Check, please visit outdooralabama.com. And also Daycool Heating and Air. Pros at Daycool have been servicing Mobile and Baldwin counties for over a decade. Contact them at 251-633-5121 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. They are license number AL07028.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with EXP Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo DePaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
Also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Intercoastal Safaris. So you're at the beach and fishing isn't quite your thing. That's fine. You can head 1 hour north to Panama City Beach to shoot some pigs. They have night vision and all you can shoot ammo, and yep, they are shooting ARs. There's no trophy fees and no bag limits. They're shooting pigs with AR-15s and night vision 1 hour north of Panama City Beach, Florida. To join them, go to intercoastalsafaris.com. That's intercoastalsafaris.com. Also brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by SunSouth. For quality John Deere equipment affordably priced, visit your neighbors at SunSouth. Visit your local SunSouth and check them out on the web at www.sunsouth.com.